Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the Bedminster Township Committee. This is our regularly scheduled meeting for July 15th. It is 7:04 p.m. Recognize that we have a quorum of Township Committee here in person at Town Hall. We are missing Committeewoman Fernandez, who has an excused absence, and here in person, Committeeman Stevenson, Committeeman Hickey, Committeewoman Mareski, and myself. Ms. Ray, may we please have the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Yes, Mayor. Adequate notice of this meeting of the Township Committee was sent to the Courier News Somerville, Burnsville News Whippany, and to all subscribers and posted at the Township Municipal Building on January 5th, 2024.
Great, thank you. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we've had a active weekend here in Bedminster. As everyone knows, President Trump survived an assassination attempt and came back to Bedminster. There was one fatality and some injuries at that event, at the rally in Pennsylvania. President Trump came back here, created a little bit of heightened alarm in Bedminster. Bedminster Police Department responded to requests from Secret Service for additional security along the perimeter. And for anyone driving by the library, we had maybe around 15 to 20, maybe 25 media outlets broadcasting. I've got my first media inquiry around 10:30, maybe a little earlier Saturday night. Some additional inquiries. Yesterday, I gave a statement to the Burnsville News. Jake, you can certainly ask Pat if you need a copy of that, but I'm sure you've already seen it. So once again, Bedminster finds itself in the national news, hopefully for just one little blip, and we can go back to a small quiet town that we're used to. Now it's the time of the meeting that we open up the microphones and Zoom for public comment. If anyone in person wishes to make a public comment, you can raise your hand, come up to the microphone. And if you are participating by Zoom, click on participants, click on raise hand, and Ms. Ray will put you into queue for public comment.
I think we have 3 participants, Mayor, but only 2 are showing up on screen.
Okay, well, I suspect that some of them are here for it. As it's Paul Fox. So let's move on. Approval of minutes. We have one set of meeting minutes to approve. That's the Township Committee meeting of July 1. Any comments or questions regarding those meeting minutes have not otherwise been provided to Ms. Ray? Seeing none, take a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And aye. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 permits and raffles to go through. First social fair permit to benefit Brooke Healy Foundation, Inc. on September 16, 2024 from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Fiddler's Upper Country Club. A social fair permit to benefit the Center for Contemporary Art on October 25, 2024 from 6:30 to 11 p.m. located at the Center for Contemporary Art. An off-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit the Center for Contemporary Art on October 25, 2024 from 7 to 10 p.m. at the Center for Contemporary Art. An on-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit the Society of the Sisters of Christian Charity on September 23rd, 2024 at 11 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club. An on-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit Trinitas Foundation on October 16, 2024 at 2 p.m. located at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club. An on-premise 50/50 raffle to benefit Autism New Jersey on September 9, 2024 at 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. located at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club. And the last raffle, an on-premise merchandise raffle to benefit Autism New Jersey on September 9, 2024 at 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Fiddler's Elbow Country Club. Okay, we are moving. Going to monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, committee. What?
We need a vote.
Wait,
We need a vote. We need a vote. I'm sorry. You
that's
know,
why we're moving so fast.
that's why we're moving so fast. Can I have a motion to approve those permits and raffles?
So
Second. All
One
in
that's
favor?
Kevin.
we all do.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Monthly report discussion by subcommittee chair, Committeeman Stevenson.
I was going to use this time, Mayor, to report on DPW by not giving a report, but by addressing Kevin, but if you'd like to table that for another part of the meeting. I would like
Oh,
to-
started now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, then let me just state that the historic pres has not yet met. We're going to be meeting coming up, so I'll give an update next time. I believe there's a meeting scheduled for this coming Thursday. So I'll give you a report next time. But with respect to DPW, I mentioned last time that Kevin has going to be leaving us to go to our neighbors down the street. And, you know, I've had the privilege of working hand in hand with Kevin as the liaison to DPW. And I can tell you firsthand, you know, you will be missed, Kevin. One of the things that I'm very vocal about at home and stuff that I always admire someone who's doing his or her craft and doing it well. Like I'll say, I don't care if you flip burgers, but be a good burger flipper, right? Watching you handle this department and taking every single task that was thrown at you and you just knocking the pins down like it was nothing was awesome to watch. It was fun for me to sit there and watch you do your thing. Your aces. You know, our loss is Bernardsville gain. There's no doubt about that. I just wish you nothing but the best, but I want you to know that it doesn't go unnoticed how you go about your day and how you go about taking on these tasks and the professional demeanor, customer service orientation that you always display is second to none. And I just think that you're getting everything you deserve. And I just wish nothing but the best for you. And I think you're leaving here. I hope you understand you're leaving with nothing but my best wishes for you. And I wish you nothing but success. Thank you for everything you've done for me.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to leave my comments for township committee comments, and this way we force Kevin to stay throughout the entire.
I love it. Great. That's a good idea.
Just give it a little more.
Captive audience.
Yeah, yeah. Keep him around for a bit. Committeeman Stevens. I'm sorry.
He gets another crack at the, but it's.
Well, that was, well, you know, you can,
Did you stop at Burnt Mills on your way?
No time.
no time, no time. Got a long meeting. Then we got a short meeting, hopefully.
And Mayor, we have library on Wednesday and Board of Health on Thursday, so I'll report back next time. That's all I've got.
Okay. Committeewoman Mareski.
All right, well, I'm gonna take Colin's time. So this month's meeting of Jacobus Vanderveer House has been postponed from our normal Wednesday, the 17th to the 23rd. But in the meantime, we had a great day yesterday. Several of us met at the house to have a paranormal investigation done by Ghost is Clear.
Hey, were these people here from in the years past? Did they previously come here? That
They were here
program's
a couple-
awesome.
They were here a couple months ago. I don't know
this
when
is-
they've been here before.
That was intense. That was pretty creepy.
This was fun. So they used lights that the ghost could turn off and on, scanners that the ghost could talk through, and then finally divining rods that they would, we would ask them yes or no questions and they could answer.
The ghosts.
The ghosts. We talked to General Knox.
General Knox.
Yeah, we talked to a tenant of the house named Mark, and we saw images on these scanners that they have. They look like Ghostbuster machines. It's so cool. But they were two kids that were in the blue room.
Ghosts.
Ghosts. Yep.
Just being clear.
So,
Wanted his rent.
huh?
General Knox wanted his rent.
Well, we were. So somebody had mentioned this over at the farmer's market, and I mentioned to the friends that they are going to consider having a fundraiser using this kind of thing as a basis around Halloween. So we'll see what happens with that. It was a good time. We were there about 2 hours and we went into different rooms. It was a lot of fun. In case anybody is going to notice, the Field of Honor flags will come down this week sometime. They were supposed to come down Saturday, but it got too hot, I think, and nobody wanted to go outside. Let's see, so on to Environmental Committees, no meeting this month. They will have one August 7th. So let's see, last Tuesday, July 9th, the mayor, myself, and Officer Rivera met with the Hills Highland Master Association up at the Rec Center on Hanson Road in Bernards Township. We focused on sharing information on community policing initiative, the safety actions being taken by nearby communities such as the camera program, and an update on the fire and encampment drive. One part of the community program that Officer Rivera highlighted was the home security self-assessment tool that actually is in our website. So if anybody wants to take a peek, go to bedminster.us. The mayor discussed how Bedminster and surrounding towns have been working together to deal with recent car thefts and home break-ins. As he shared with us at other township meetings, he described the camera program and how it will work. I reviewed the status update from the encampment fire that I received from the Vulcan Management Group. Quick update, there were 4 units that had limited damage, so they'll just need some painting. 2 had more extensive damage, they'll need some work, and then 4 units were a total loss. Their engineer is working on developing plans because nobody could find the original plans, even if they were to work, so they have to do that. There was a quick Q&A with the residents, many of whom were concerned with the origins of the fire, just in case there was something that they could currently do to prevent this from happening again. We left some handouts that Robin was kind enough to give us, such as the resident resource guide and the senior and disabled resident services guide, just in case they wanted to pass that out to their members. Let's see, so this was last Thursday. We had a meeting about Southfield Drive traffic mitigation. So after hearing back from Far Hills Bedminster Fire Company, Pottersville Volunteer Fire Company, and Far Hills Bedminster First Aid Squad, we had this meeting at Town Hall last Thursday. In attendance also was our engineer, Paul Ferraro, Chief Bernardo, and our DPW team of Kevin and Jason. We discussed calming issues such as speed humps and no through traffic signs, but all of these bring up more issues than actually they solve. So the group determined that the 2 most important factors in how to proceed with any type of action were the results from the traffic speed study and the input from the first responders on closing off the road. The speed study shows that most cars travel between 30 miles an hour on Southfield, which are within reasonable limits. Also note there have been no motor vehicle accidents that the police department could tell us since 2012. And maybe more importantly, the consensus of all our first responders is that closing off the road would lead to public health and safety concerns when first aid is needed over there. And as we all know, seconds can count. So I'd like to meet one more time with Mr. Anuletto and any other residents who would like to talk about this a little further, and we'll see if we're able to go from there.
Great.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. That's a lot. So I do want to talk about some of the issues that were discussed up with the Hills Highlands, with the Master Association. As Renee mentioned, we did talk about Somerset Hills Public Safety Committee, along with the Bernards Township, and a good chunk of the representatives at the Hills Highlands Master Association, probably majority, are Bernards residents. That association is essentially the top of the hill, so it's certainly encampment, Parkside, some of the single families on Autumn Ridge and off of Autumn Ridge, Signal Point, Crestmont Highlands, Gatehouse. That's the Bedminster side, but as everyone knows, you're on Allen Road. The rest of it is Bernards Township. So one comment that came up as we talked about public safety concerns. And this was a resident from Bernards, have mentioned that, there was an incident where there was a strange vehicle in her neighborhood, a vehicle that certainly was parked in front of her house, was not it's not hers, was not her neighbor's. Asked another neighbor if they knew, didn't know. And so in keeping with you see something, say something. She called 911 and she said she got a little bit of grief from the 911 operator. And she said she checked her ring camera, she had to go off to work, did not see if Bernard's PD ever sent someone to do the search, and her thought was that there was a disconnect between dispatch at the county and PD. So Officer Rivera and a little bit what little I know about dispatch, we talked about the issue that the county runs dispatch. That is not Bernard's PD. It's not Bedminster PD. We all go to the county for dispatch. And it did raise the issue of a concern that both Bernard's and Bedminster PD certainly, if you see something, say something. You have to call it in. One of the residents said, well, maybe you should call the police directly. Well, calling the police directly, certainly in Bedminster doesn't work. We've got one administrative assistant who's doing a lot of things in town hall, and 911 really should be the call. And to me, it just raises the issue of whether there's a gap in public policy where we have our police department, certainly our chief and our lieutenant saying, and our sergeants, and really all our police department, saying, you got to call it in, right? We can't respond to a situation, even if it's not a situation. We can't respond unless we know about it. The only way we know about it is by those calls, and those calls go to 911. So perhaps this is something that I was not able to make. We'll talk about this. Robin will do the report for the Somerset Hills Public Safety Committee. I was scheduled for work event that day, so I couldn't make the last call, but I asked Robin to put it on the agenda and hear from the police officers what their response was. But it's just something that I think needs to be elevated down to the county and who's ever in charge of dispatch to make sure, look, it's a tough world. A lot of folks are on, the term is Tinder hooks, which I don't really know what that means, John. Maybe you can explain what Tinder hooks means, but people are on edge.
Tenderhook.
And the concern is that if there's something going on, if there's someone that you don't know in your neighborhood and he's, checking out doors or checking out, or she, stalking houses, right? Call the police. That's what we've been told.
Didn't she say she called and didn't get an answer? And they
Well,
called her back?
No, I thought you said she called, got someone, got a little bit of pushback, and then nothing ever happened.
I think she said she called, she didn't get an answer, but they called her back and then gave her grief. But in any event, they shouldn't have given her grief.
So, it's something that we want to see, that I certainly would like to see elevated at the county and hear back from them.
I have an answer on the tender hooks issue that I'm sure everybody.
Tender hooks,
It's tender,
tender hooks, okay.
TENTER hooks means waiting nervously for something to happen. The word tenter means a frame used for drying and stretching cloth and is related to tent. So being on tenter hooks
Oh.
compares the tenseness of the stretched fabric to the tension of nervous waiting.
Ah,
Tension of nervous waiting from stretching out some fabric.
I
which
bet
is
that's a
unbelievable.
first for discussion
How
at
do you-
a governing body.
How well, as a fan of etymological, origins,
wow.
that's interesting. Thank you,
I
John.
did not know
I
that
did not
myself.
I've been pronouncing it wrong all
Well,
these years.
I'm missing Jeopardy tonight. So
Consider yourself even.
We'll be moving your item to the end of the meeting. So Kevin, you're safe. Paul's going to go last.
Thanks, Paul. Just looking out for you.
Farmers market, a little bit of rain on Saturday morning, still ended up with 9:50.
9:55.
9:55, once again, tremendous showing. Once again, the threat of rain or the actual rain we had in the morning always pushes attendance a little low, but didn't matter. Folks came out in droves. Land use board, we did have a land use board meeting last week. A replacement of a gate at a residence was approved. Very exciting. Also, the first hearing for the Dunkin' Donuts up at the Shell Station on 206. That started. Committeeman Hickey and I were not eligible since that is a board of adjustment matter. I believe that that hearing will continue in August. And also
I think it's September, isn't it?
is it September? We weren't there, so I don't know.
I don't recall. I know the engineer was having some trouble getting the plans together. I don't recall a date.
Okay, so it's going to be carried. There'll be additional, there'll at least be one additional hearing on that matter. So if you're interested, please check the land use board agenda. Also at the land use board, and we'll talk about this actually right afterwards. The land use board agreed that the pending ordinance changing lot coverage was not inconsistent with the Bedminster master plan. And I believe Carol Gutschall, the planning board chair, put together a memo for Robin indicating the consistency statement. There was no ag committee meeting last month. There was no library board meeting. There will be a library board meeting this week.
This Wednesday.
This Wednesday, okay. I think both you and I will
Yep.
be attending that. And that's it from my end. Ms. Ray, may we please have the administrator's report? And since the chief isn't here, you can also combine it with the community policing report. Yes,
Oh, okay. Number one.
which is really going to be the Somerset Hills Public Safety Committee.
It is. So just a reminder to everyone, if you see activity at River Road Park in the North Field at that Township research at Princeton, they're gonna start plotting out. There's plots at the end of this week and then starting the last week in July for the archaeological study for the community garden site. Been working with Dexter, and we're preparing for the ban, which we had budgeted for earlier during the budget process for emergency services radios, the Pottersville Fire Company tender, and the remounting of the ambulance for Parkers Bedminster First Aid Squad. HR wise, employees and supervisors are working on performance reviews right now with employee goals as the focus for this year's effort. And attended various meetings for the past 2 weeks since our last meeting. We had a second quarter safety meeting, JIP meetings, and more recently today, we had a hurricane preparedness meeting with representatives from New Jersey State Police, which was very helpful. It's get yourself grant ready, FEMA grant ready for hurricane season. So that was a good couple takeaways from that. And lastly, I just want to, since I'm not going to have time to speak later, but I just want to say publicly to Kevin, Kevin, I really sincerely wish you good luck in your new position. You're going to be missed by me tremendously. Everything you've done has been very professional and timely, and I can't say enough good things about you. And it's just been an absolute pleasure. So
Thank you.
I really wish you the best of luck.
Thank
Oh.
Yeah, so let's take the Somerset Public Health Safety Committee and might as well just bring it here.
Do it now, sure. So, Mayor, as you know, Bridgewater was the last of the municipalities to adopt their resident protection ordinance. That being said, Mayor Corigliano of PTAC Gladstone constructed a press release, which has been sent out to all the various news outlets. And the next steps are to try and get some support at the legislative level. Some of the other topics that were discussed were.
Robin, just on that, I will say that the Courier already picked up on that and wrote a little article about it. Mayor Parker forwarded it to me, so that was great to see.
Great. Do you know when that was? Was that over the weekend?
He sent, I think he sent it to me this
I'll look it up.
yesterday. May have been Sunday.
I'll look it up. I want to keep a record of all those. The other thing was, on this topic for discussion was the effectiveness of the license plate reader cameras. Bernards Township has had tremendous success. Bernardsville just, installed one, they have 2 more to install. And Bar Hills just installed 2 themselves, so, which is interesting, and both the cameras are on private property, so they don't have to work through the red tape at the state level with the highways and, county roads. So that was we learned a lot from that experience, and the price of those, license plate reader cameras have gone down, but apparently they're a very powerful tool. And the state police actually, once you decide where you want the camera, the state police plugs it into a GPS and determines, if that's an appropriate place for it, if it needs coverage elsewhere. And the other topic that we had discussed was the people from around the state of New Jersey that are attracted to our rivers and streams along the North Branch. It's become a problem here in Bedminster, and I know Bar Hills has also experienced some issues. It was just making the other municipalities aware. And last on the agenda was the discussion that Mayor Jacobs had pointed out regarding the treatment of calls to the 911 emergency center down in Somerset County. No one had reported that they had any other issues experienced, but there were only 2 other police chiefs that were there at the meeting at the time. So the different mayors were going to check in to see if there were any accounts, by their police officers of similar treatment of a resident that reports something, sees something, say something. And then the next step would be to direct our attention to the county call center to see what can be done.
So I did,
Change the message.
I actually just forwarded you our collecting was this morning. So
Okay, great.
this morning's
Thank you.
courier, but and they certainly have picked up on the press release that we did. Just following up on the issue of so there, Township Committee certainly knows about this. That there's been folks coming out to hang out literally in the river along our hike and bike trail. And they're coming out and staying for the day, and which is fun. Except they are bringing food and barbecuing, and whether it's hibachis or gas grills, and drinking and leaving all forms of garbage, including diapers and sometimes not diapers. And I've heard a complaint, actually, it's not really a complaint, an incident that the fire department had to respond because there were burning embers left in, I'm not sure if it was in the woods, but it was not too far back from Miller Lane. And the fire department was not pleased that folks are grilling back there, and it is not allowed. And there are some municipal ordinances that we do have in place. Bedminster PD has been patrolling and issuing summonses. So we'll see what happens with that, and if that quashes what's been going on out there. I've also heard from residents and received an email, and also at the farmer's market, folks were coming up to me and saying something needs to be done because people are walking from the hills and they're just turning around because the garbage and the crowds are so big that they are just, staying away. And so we do need to look at it and make sure that everything is maintained appropriately. I do believe that Chief Bernardo has reached out to DEP and to some of the state forestry because there are concerns about damage to the woods, damage to the river. Some cases they're damming up, literally taking the rocks in the North Branch and creating dams and to generate waiting areas, presumably for kids or not. And certainly messing up with the operation of the river. So it's something that we wanted to see if any of the other municipalities are dealing with. And if anyone has any other enforcement ideas, we wanted to hear from those other towns. But right now, certainly Bedminster PD is on top of it. And I think we did hear that in one day, at least 10 summonses were issued. So hopefully the word gets out. The parks and the hike and bike are there for recreation and enjoyment, but not to the detriment of the environment itself. Introduction of ordinances. We have none tonight. We do have a public hearing of ordinance 2024-015. Once again, this is the lot coverage ordinance that we discussed at introduction, and the intent of this ordinance is to increase lot coverage across all residential zones. And this would have essentially one lot coverage calculation that would apply whether based on the size of the property, whether you're in a quarter-acre zone, half-acre zone, 1 acre zone, through 10-acre zone. The impetus for this ordinance was that over the last couple of years, the land use board has been giving variances for folks who needed relief. And in some part, it was because of our setbacks. Whatever zone you're in, some of the setbacks were requiring longer driveways, which eats up into your lot coverage. So if we're giving folks a longer setback, that requires greater lot coverage and less lot coverage for them to build other elements. So we thought we would change it. Paul had worked up a chart that was going to work, and it did until an engineer, Paul Fox, brought to our attention that the way this new calculation worked, there was an inflection point, that it was providing additional lot coverage up to a certain area, and that after that area, it actually diminished lot coverage from where it had been. So Paul Ferrero and I discussed making some adjustments to it, ran it by John Bellardo, and based on the calculations that Paul ran.
So what we're gonna do, just so we.
We'll get there. We'll get there. The inflection point for where all of a sudden, you're getting increased lot coverage and then it drops was 35 acres. So the solution was to leave the chart in place for lot sizes up to 35 acres. And then for properties above 35 acres to leave the current lot coverage in place. So we're drawing the line at 35 acres. Below 35 acres, you fall into the chart. Above 35 acres, you stay where you are at 5% total lot coverage. So, John.
Let's do this. Why don't we open the public hearing as we normally do on the original ordinance as published?
Okay, take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now I understand that there is an amendment proposed, which amendment I've deemed as non-substantive. Thus, it would permit you to adopt the amendment tonight if you so please. And so Paul and I think are going to work through exactly what that amendment is. Do you want me to take a first shot at it, Paul, and you could jump in, or do you want to do that?
It all depends on your confidence in your algebra skills.
Well, I'm not sure they're that competent, but let's do this. The original.
Your schools know that they were the engineers at the time.
Yes, but I was not an engineer. I was a finance and economics major. So if you want to invest money, come to me. But if you want to add it up, go to Paul. Let's use West Point. If we go to Under 13-401.3A, there is a table 1, which is lot coverage. In the original ordinance, there was a category that was a singular category that said, we're going to leave everything else the same in the table, but in the original ordinance, there was a category that said for lot area in excess of 10 acres. And then it provided a percentage coverage for increment, a base coverage, and a maximum permitted coverage in terms of square feet. What the amended ordinance is proposed is going to do is going to have 2 categories. There's going to be a category for the next 25 acres, meaning 10 to 35 acres. And then there's going to be a category for all lots in excess of 35 acres. The percentage coverage for increment for 10 to 35 acres is 3%. 43,604 for the first 10 acres stays the same. And then what changes for that 10 to 25 category is the maximum permitted coverage in square feet is 43,604 square feet plus 3% of the lot area in the excess or increment of 10 acres to 35 acres. Now, when we go for lots in excess of 35 acres, it's simple. It's just 5% of the total area is the maximum permitted coverage. Did I get that correct? Do you want to jump in?
You got that correct.
All right, so that's your amendment.
I can explain why, but you got it correct.
Why don't you
Also
explain?
disappointed.
You're disappointed in me that I didn't.
That you'd have no criticism. Or you're withholding your criticism out of deference to John.
What happened with the ordinance was it's all about the slope of the line of the increasing coverage. And it flattens out as you go up in lot area. And there was a point, and it happens to be at 35 acres, where that flattening out ended up in something less than 5% lot coverage for lots in excess of 5 acres. Very simple fix, just find that point. Like John said, we're going to 5 acres for the lot area for those lots. So there's no change. I can say this across the board. Nobody gets less lot coverage than they had before. And there's no change for lots in excess of 35 acres.
So if you want to make a motion to amend the ordinance as so indicated, why don't we do that? And then if that motion is accepted, you can make a motion to open up the public hearing on the amended ordinance.
Okay, I'll take a motion to amend ordinance 2024-015, consistent with what's before us, consistent with the description from John and from Paul.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we'll take a motion to open the public hearing on the amended version of ordinance 2024-015.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
So once again, this ordinance sets a new lot coverage. There's an incremental. So if everyone just turns to table 1, there's an incremental assessment. So for the first half acre, the lot percentage of allowable lot coverage is 30%. For the next half acre, you get that 30% for your first half acre. That's essentially establishes the baseline. And for the area you have beyond a half acre, so you go from 0.5, you have 6/10. So you start with that first 30% for your first half acre, and then that next 10th, you get a 20% lot coverage. And that continues all through. So you start with, there's a increment for first half acre, the second half acre, then for the next 1 acre, then for the next 1 acre, then for the next 2 acres, then the next 2 acres, and then for the next 3 acres. That brings you up to 10 acres. So for each of those, you start with your baseline at the 30% of a half acre, and then whatever the other increments, they all add up cumulatively. And then when you get to 10 acres, So for anything, from 10 acres to 35 acres. So you start with whatever base you get at 10 acres. Then from 10 to 35, so that 25 acre, you get a new allocation, percentage of whatever that land area is above 10, but below 25. If you have a property that is in excess of 35 acres, you don't get any baseline. You just get a flat 5%, which is exactly what folks have today. Question.
I have a question. We are doing this because we've identified areas where folks are coming and asking for relief when they really shouldn't otherwise need it, right? This
Yes.
is part of that initiative to say, let's give the residents a bit of opportunity to do something with their homes, put on an addition, put in a pool or something, right? This is the same discussion.
Yes.
Okay. Have we done a look at the need for that at the 35 acre level? Because this doesn't get that done for them. Follow-ups like we're giving a
Yes,
relief to
yes.
everybody up to 35,
Yes.
and then it's like, but you still get the same old deal. If we made the determination we need relief, do the 35 acre folks need similar relief?
So from the land use board, and I'm going to turn to Paul, who's done some of the this analysis. Certainly, the land use board looked at where we were getting the variances seeking relief from lot coverage.
Right.
And those variances were primarily coming from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20 acre properties. We weren't really seeing it to that extent for larger parcels. Paul, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just to roll back and talk about another purpose of the ordinance, and I'll get to the numbers in a second. Part of this was to create lot coverage standards. So if you had a 2 acre lot, it didn't matter what zone you were in, you had the same permitted lot coverage, because that is not the case before this gets done. And it varies significantly from zone to zone as to what you could have amount of coverage you could have per lot.
So for example, if you're in the R10, and certainly we've seen this at the land use board, if you're in the R10, 10 acre zone, you have a 5%, you currently are subject to a 5% lot coverage. So if you have a non-conforming lot in a 10 acre zone, let's say you've got a 6 acre property, so it's a pretty significant sized property. There's very little you can do.
Right, well,
with
it's actually different than that. For the R10 zone is the one zone that does have variable lot coverages for non-conforming lots in that zone. But the other zones do not. If you're in the 2 acre zone and you have 1 acre, you're stuck with the 2 acre zone coverage, not what would have been the 1 acre zone coverage. So this kind of levels the playing field across the different zones. So whatever lot size you have, you get the coverage based on the lot size.
And then to the second point, where we're seeing the variances.
Yeah,
the larger size.
they're mostly on the smaller lots. I can't think of more than 1 or 2 over years and years and years that are greater than, or lots that are greater than 35 acres where those variances occur. And those are unusual circumstances where you may have common driveways that are very long that serve properties in the rear. And in my opinion, you don't necessarily, that's a perfect justification for a variance, and you shouldn't set your ordinance for every potential outlier, because then you'll get unintended consequences there as well. So I think this strikes the balance to reduce the number of variances that the board would have to see, therefore giving more relief to the residents, but also keeping an eye on overall lot coverage in the municipality.
Yeah, I mean, my only other concern, I think it's alleviated or addressed by the statement that it is not inconsistent with our master plan, and that is, are we sure that uniformity of lot coverage is what we want throughout? What doesn't matter where you are, if you're in the historic district, or if you're not in a historic district, are we sure that's what we want? That you can have this lot coverage that's one size fits all, so to speak, And I guess that would be my concern is sort of a master plan concern that, wait a second, what have we decided as a municipality, as a
And that
community
is,
that we want this section to be so limited? And if we've already thought out and gotten the determination that it's not inconsistent, that I'm fine with.
right, and that's the finding of not inconsistent.
Right.
You will not find it that it anywhere in the ordinance it spells this out. But it is consistent with a number of goals and objectives of the master plan as far as limiting cover, but providing reasonable opportunities for development on all properties. And the lots in the smaller zones or in the historic areas tend to often be some of the smaller lots.
Right.
And, what we've seen at the board, relates to some of those lots. And, but also when you get larger, and it was brought up the other night, the question was it the intent of this ordinance to make it more difficult for people to have agricultural uses on 100-acre lots? The answer was no, that was not the intent. Thank you for pointing that out. And I think we remedied it.
Thank you.
And certainly, Frank Banish, who's the municipal planner, he went through it and he was at all the debate and discourse about putting this ordinance together. And he issued a memo to the land use board saying that he agreed with the concepts in this ordinance for that consistency.
Did anybody take into consideration environmental impacts with this? I mean, I'm just imagining on these smaller properties, you're gonna have larger lot coverage. It's gonna cause problems with rainwater, stuff like that.
You still have the stormwater control ordinance, which regulates what you have to do depending on the additional coverage you put on the lots. So,
Okay,
so depending on how much you put on, will regulate how much you have to do for stormwater control on those lots.
okay,
That does not change that. You're still subject to those requirements.
okay.
And Paul, based on your experience, like you've been here a long time, you also work across other towns. Nothing in here would be considered in any means excessive. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, I think it's quite the opposite. We have such limitation that in some of the zones prior to this ordinance, you had the house, the driveway, and front wall, and you literally could do nothing else.
And part of that relates to what this ordinance regulates. It doesn't regulate impervious coverage.
Right.
It regulates lot coverage. So things like gravel driveways, sand riding arenas, they're all considered lot coverage.
Yeah, so Paul and I did have a discussion about, the alternative is to look at what constitutes lot coverage. And that really could open up a bigger can of worms, maybe addressing some of the concerns that you have and that you have. So we felt the best way of accommodating was giving greater latitude in the lot coverage percentages themselves. So this is a consistent approach. Once again, whether you've got a 2-acre property in the R1, a 2-acre property in R3, you know what you can do. The other thing that Paul said that he can develop, he's going to work into our online ordinance, or this might be online.
It'll be a tool on the website. It will not be in the ordinance.
Okay, so it'll be a tool on the Bedminster website. You put in your lot size, it'll spit out your allowable lot coverage. So we think that's a tremendous tool that would be very useful to all our residents and to folks who are looking to sell, people looking to buy in Bedminster, to know what they can do with that property in the context of coverage limits. So any further questions from Township Committee? Okay, let's open the hearing up for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to make a comment or question regarding the proposed ordinance? If you're in person, raise your hand and come on up. Give your name and address.
Paul Fox with Apgar Associates in Far Hills. I represent homeowners, 250 Holland Road, 1510 Larger Cross, 1904 Lamington, 815 Long Lane, 251 Fowler, 461 Spook Hollow, and 400 Larger Cross. on behalf of our firm, I thank you for making the final adjustments to that. I think that makes sense. A lot of these property owners have preserved large properties for a long time, and they want to be able to maintain the opportunities, however limited they are presently, at what they are now, and not look at a reduction in potential improvements in the future. So thank you for making that adjustment, and we appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Paul, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you for listening.
If you are participating by Zoom and you'd like to make a question or comment regarding the proposed ordinance, once again, bring your cursor down to the bottom, click on participants, click on raise hand. Or is it reaction? Is it reaction or participants?
Reaction.
Reaction?
No,
Oh, it's you.
I'm not seeing any, requests for comment and.
Okay, seeing none, take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Take a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-015, consistent with the changes that John and Paul described and consistent with the version of ordinance in your packet.
And I've deemed those amendments non-substantive, as I've indicated before, such that the committee can adopt this ordinance tonight if it so desires.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moraski.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, John. And thank you, Paul Fox.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you. I know Mr. Fox is dismissed, am I?
You have anything you want to say
I can
about
say it.
Kevin?
I've got nothing else to, no place
Would
else
you like to
go
say anything to
tonight.
Kevin?
I'm sorry,
Would you like to say anything to Kevin?
just thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Paul.
Kevin's done a great job and has really been awesome to work with, a breath of fresh air in the township. I think it's gone really well.
My son lives in Burnersville, so I've already given him Kevin's cell number.
On those snowy days. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4 items on the consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature. Any member, township committee member, any township committee member want to pull one off for all of them for individual consideration? Saying none, take a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moraski.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll note that resolution 2024-103 appoints Evan Elliott to the Historic Preservation Commission. Evan is recent graduate from Syracuse, where he majored in architecture, working at an architectural firm now, and is also a volunteer with the farmstead. So he's got some historical experience, and so welcome addition to the HPC, or UBC. We have no resolutions not on the agenda. We'll take a motion to approve the bill list pending review of individual invoices.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson.
Aye.
Mr. Hickey.
Aye.
Ms. Moraski.
Aye.
And Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Any items for discussion under new business?
Nothing there.
Let's go back to old business. DOT improvements, as far as I know, there's been no further input or response from DOT on the crosswalk improvements. Utilities, Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple quick updates. JCP&L, as you may be aware, there were 2 outages last week. Unfortunately, first was an area-wide outage last Tuesday that impacted many Somerset Hills towns. It was deemed by JCP&L to be a transmission trip, which likely means either a piece of upstream transmission equipment failed because of the high demand due to the high temperatures, or it was struck by lightning. We had a separate outage on Wednesday that was limited to the Knollcrest neighborhood and was caused by a primary failure. That outage unfortunately lasted about 9 hours, and a permanent repair will be made within the next several weeks with no additional downtime anticipated.
What do you mean by, is there
So there's a
Primary.
so there's a cable running between transformers in that neighborhood underground that failed.
Oh, that was internal.
That was internal to
Okay.
Nocris, correct. So technically, basically, they backfed from Hills Drive and they will go in and replace that cable from transformer to transformer within the next week or two. Like I said, no downtime for the residents. We checked on that. In spite of that local failure, I think what we've been seeing more and more is that these power failures like Tuesday's example are occurring upstream in the network. We have spent a lot of time ensuring that our local neighborhood networks, especially those in the hills, are up to speed. But the upstream substations and transmission facilities are where the failures are originating these days. And that's why you're seeing entire regions go dark, like we saw on Tuesday. So I know, Mayor, you personally appealed to the BPU a couple of months ago to make sure that JCP&L is investing in modernizing and hardening its upstream transmission network. That really will get to the root of a lot of the problems that we've been seeing across the area. So we're patiently waiting, or perhaps impatiently waiting for the BPU to take some action, which I anticipate will come later on this summer. If there are no questions on that, Altice, speaking of Knollcrest, construction has officially finished there, so residents of Knollcrest can now avail themselves of the new fiber network. It is the 5th neighborhood in the hills to be cut over for Altice fiber. As I mentioned in our last meeting, I've been working with several of the associations to address some startup issues. In most cases, those involve the handoff from the Altice construction group to the field operations team, the latter of which handles the new service installs. So we're working through some issues there. Mayor, that's all I have. I don't know if Kevin has anything on New Jersey American Water or PSE&G. I do not.
I do not have anything on American Water, PSE&G. The only thing I have is the local for the project here, for the town hall. Jason and I met, last week with the service rep. What we're going to do is we're going to ensure that the line is big enough for future expansion if we do decide to do the boiler system here. The gentleman who does the scheduling was off. I have an email out to him. I'm just trying to get a better time. While we're touching on that, on Friday, they're going to switch generator over to tie the lines in for the electric. The building will be shut down at 12. It's like a 3 to 4 hour process for them to do that. So then the only thing we're waiting on is PSE&G for the gas. So.
Oh, wait, and so on Old Stone House, still,
I don't believe they're gonna need the services to the houses yet.
okay,
But that should be what's next for them.
excellent, great, thank you. For John and Doug, Pluckman Park.
No
Senior?
update, Mayor.
I have told the zoning officer to keep me in the loop on any new developments concerning the outstanding violations and whether there has been any compliance or remediation. So I haven't heard anything lately. So, but she's aware to keep me in the loop.
So, which brings us to Township Committee comments. We do have an executive session and we may be taking action after that executive session. So hold the TC, whether you want to go through comments now or whether you want to wait till after executive session and we return to public for action on the resolution.
You were gracious enough to let me say my comments, so I don't have a dog in the race.
We can do it now.
Okay, let's go through Township Committee comments. So we're gonna go through Township Committee comments. We will then adjourn to executive session to discuss a personnel matter, and then we will come back for consideration of a resolution. Committeeman Stevens.
Good luck. Don't be a stranger. Thank you.
Committeeman Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. So Renee, you always said it's hard to follow, Doug and I, it's hard to follow him a lot of times because he's Aaron Judge, right? But Kevin, I just want to say thank you. I've described you before as the action hero of Bedminster, which you truly are. And, folks may not realize, not only does Kevin have his daytime job, but then he has to answer to all 5 of us. And trust me, and it's because we get calls from the residents about problems, issues, concerns. You call up Kevin, no matter how small or big the problem is. Kevin, gravity isn't working. Okay, yeah. I'll get that fixed. It'll be fixed by tomorrow. I swear. I'm like, and it is. Kevin, you are a credit to your industry, to your job, to the residents. You're always there for everybody. It's been a pleasure working with you. It's been an education working with you. I wish you the best of luck in your future career. I know our loss is Bernardsville's gain. We're sorry to see you go, but like Doug said, don't be a stranger. You're always a friend. So thank you.
Thank you.
Committeewoman Mareski.
What the heck am I gonna say?
Give me a softball. That was barely in.
Right.
I know all of us in town appreciate all the work you do. We're gonna miss you. Don't be a stranger. And we'll see you, we'll still see you a little bit.
Yeah.
So. And I'm not gonna cry.
Not yet.
No, I'm working up to it. And we will miss you.
So it's interesting because I think of Kevin as having been here 20 years and he hasn't. He hasn't. So Kevin came to us and was working under John Nance for years, but not that many years. But John saw something in Kevin. And usually John saw bad in just about everything. But he saw something good in Kevin and identified Kevin as the up and coming director and appointed him as deputy. And Kevin got an opportunity to be a director of the Public Works. And what was that? That was Byram? Alamucci. Went to Alamucci, things didn't work out, came back here to once again serve under John Nance. That says you've got to really like the town you work to come back for round 2 with John Nance, but he did. And when John announced he was retiring, and we went through a process, and Kevin was considered. We went through another process, and Kevin was the guy. Doug, you were instrumental in going through the interview process and sitting down with Kevin and sort of laying down the expectations for the position of director. And there was a concern because John had been here for 40, 46, 47 years.
Can't remember. 44.
And certainly no one was even close to that. The transition, John, with Rodney as an interim to Kevin, was, I don't want to say it was seamless, because seamless isn't enough. There actually was an uptick in, dare I say it, morale of DPW, the production we saw out of DPW.
New ideas.
The new ideas, the coordination and cooperation with the other departments, which we didn't always have. So there was an open channel between the police department, between rec, and even environmental and the other committees
JVH.
and departments directly to Kevin. I don't recall at any time Kevin ever saying, no, we can't do that. It's just, give me some time, let me think about it, and we'll take care of it. Whether it was the parks, the fields, the roads, the dirt roads, the plowing, the leaf pickup. Somehow we ended up with a Santa chair for the farmer's market. And it's just going above and beyond. And also certainly, I'll come back to it, the camaraderie within DPW, right? It's a hard job. These guys are there early in the morning, super early, and they're there on the coldest nights, and they're there on the hottest days, and they're outside and they're working, and the maintenance of our facilities is right up there. And we talked about we talked about the fields we have, and the reason they're in such great shape is because Kevin and his crew really put their all in there. Kevin was working with us, not just here and getting the calls, can you do this, can you do that? But also like budget and taking a committed interest in how the town puts together our budget. And was there, was always a great sounding board for fire safety equipment, DPW equipment. What, Kevin saw that it was a tough year, maybe we can squeeze out another year or two of this piece of equipment, but this other one we need right away. And, oftentimes, we might look at that and like, okay, we need to vet this further. No, with Kevin, it was, Kevin, we trusted implicitly, we took your advice and, we worked with it. You talked about, in his day job, right? His day job, DPW director. You're a lieutenant,
Got it.
captain, I'm sorry. So captain on which fire vehicle?
We don't differentiate it.
Okay, he's captain in Far Hills Bedminster Fire Department. He volunteers in your hometown fire department. You're on your school board yet?
I've been on, yes.
He's been on the
5 years.
school board,
How did he have time to have a kid?
husband,
What?
father, active with sports, with your kids' sports.
Coach basketball and soccer.
Do you sleep?
Some renaissance, man.
And unlike his predecessor, he never gave a single legal opinion at these meetings.
So it's just, Kevin, you were so for, certainly compared to John, it's a short window, but you're so ingrained in the community. We wish you all the success in Bernardsville. Our loss is their gain. But the other thing that Kevin did, and this is something that Gina and I have been preaching, and Doug, I know you've done this as well, and certainly with Robin, is that we have a succession plan. And Kevin has done that with the Bedminster DPW. And I don't want to discuss any more of that because that's for executive session. So Kevin, good luck. Thank you. We know we'll see you around. We'll see you at Miller Lane for sure.
Yeah, I'll be here for Fall Fest too.
Yeah, yes, since there's only 24 hours a day, I'm sure we can squeeze a couple minutes of you once in a while. And Robin, are we going to keep Kevin for exec? No? Okay, Kevin?
Good luck. I'll pop out.
Okay.
I'd just like to say thank you all for your support. Each and including Robin, especially each and every one of you, crucial to my success. Jason, my entire crew. Nothing would have been done without all of your support and having a good crew. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, I'll take a motion to go to executive session once again for the public out there. We will be returning to public session after executive, and we may be taking formal action on a resolution. Take a motion, that's that. 8:13, I'll take a motion to adjourn to executive session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. We will be returning, so if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome. Okay, it is 8:30. Bedminster Township Committee has returned from executive session. We are now in public session. We do have one resolution to consider, which is resolution number 2024-102. This resolution would appoint P. Jason Randolph to take the position of acting public works director at a salary of $110,000 for a one-year term. The position is acting. There's a certification that's required. And Jason, we understand that you're intending to complete that certification within the year. Any further questions or comments regarding the resolution? Seeing none, take a motion to approve resolution 2024-102.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, please. Mr. Stevenson,
Enthusiastically, yes.
Mr. Hickey,
Absolutely, aye.
Ms. Moreski,
Of course, yes.
and Mayor Jacobs.
Aye. Congratulations, Jason.
All right.
And at 8:31, seeing no further business to take care of tonight, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Good. Bam.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
See ya.
Congratulations.